Good evening. I'm Ed Murrow. The name of the program is Person to Person. Tonight we'll be going to California for a visit with actress Ginger Rogers. We'll also be dropping in on Charles Van Doren and his wife here in New York. We'll be ready to go in exactly 30 seconds. Charles Van Doren is a 32-year-old instructor at Columbia College. He teaches English and comparative literature. Just a year ago, he won $129,000 in a television quiz contest to become the newest of the Van Dorens in the public eye. His parents, Mark and Dorothy, whom we visited on Person to Person some time ago, had long been known for the poetry and novels they had written. His late uncle, Carl Van Doren, was a top literary critic and biographer. Young Charles and his brother John, now a history teacher at Brandeis University, grew up in Greenwich Village here in New York and on the family farm in Connecticut. Mr. and Mrs. Charles Van Doren, they were married soon after the quiz game ended, now live in the penthouse of this apartment building overlooking Central Park. Evening, Charles.
Good evening, Mr. Morrow.
What have you been up to since those eventful Mondays of about a year ago?
Well, I've been busy, lots of things. I'm teaching the same classes that I taught last year. I'm doing a lot of television work and planning a lot more than that. I'm writing my dissertation finally. I still don't have my doctorate. It's a book on the poetry of William Cooper. And right now I'm editing a book of letters to mothers.
Well, that sounds as if you're a little busier today, even if under somewhat less pressure than you were at this time a year ago.
Well, I am awful busy. I'd say, by the way, that the pressure hasn't gone down much. There's still television, and you know how exciting and tense those last few minutes and seconds before a television show are. And then I've got to write the introduction for this letters book. I think I've got to do it this weekend. I've got a deadline coming up very shortly.
Well, Mr. Van Doren, just what are you doing with the letters written to mothers that you're collecting?
Well, it's our feeling that a letter from a man to his mother, or from a woman to his mother, is a terribly revealing document. You might learn more about a man from one letter than 100 books. I've got a lot of them around here, and I wonder if I could read you one to show you. Well, this, for example. Just a little bit of a letter from a painter to his mother. When you look at the portrait which I'm sending you, you'll see that even though I've lived for years in Paris, London, and other great cities, I still more or less resemble a peasant, only peasants are more useful in this world than I am. However, I work on my paintings as hard as they work in their fields. Now, that's from Vincent van Gogh to his mother, and I think it tells an awful lot about him.
It certainly does. Mr. Van Doren, from your current schedule, I gather that you have had done with quiz shows, except for some wonderful memories and a few dollars, right?
Wonderful memories, and one other thing, a wonderful wife. I'd like you to meet her.
Of course. Where is Geraldine?
She's in the living room. Mr. Morrow, this is Jerry.
Good evening, Geraldine.
Good evening, Mr. Morrow.
I think you have an anniversary coming up, too, haven't you?
Yes, we do. We were married last April in St. Thomas, Virgin Islands, the Virgin Isle Hotel. And as a matter of fact, we stayed in the presidential suite.
Her uncle owns the hotel.
Charles, as I remember the newspaper stories, you married the secretary who was helping you handle, some 20,000 fan letters, right?
Yes, that's true. And we're very grateful to this program, both of us, to give us an opportunity to explain that situation a little. It is true that I married my secretary.
But it's only half true. In reality, I was Charlie's secretary for a month before we were married, but we knew one another for a year before that.
And well, it came along January, and I had all this mail, just bushels of mail. I had to bring it home in a suitcase in Columbia. And it seemed awfully silly when Jerry had to work anyway to hire somebody else to do the job. And so since we were ready to get married, at least Jerry knew we were ready to get married.
I certainly did, or I wouldn't have taken the job.
Well, Mrs. Van Doren, considering your interest in each other at the time when you were handling all this correspondence, were you annoyed at all at the number of proposals Charles received?
No, I don't think I was annoyed at all by them. I showed them all to Charlie, at least almost all of them. And really, when you think about the kind of person who would propose to a man she had never met, you couldn't be too concerned about it.
Charles, I would gather from the way you weathered that most publicized period of your life, at least so far, that it was perhaps inevitable that you follow the Van Doren literary tradition.
I suppose it was inevitable. There was a time when I didn't think it was, When I was a little boy, for example, I think my greatest ambition was to be a member of the Detroit Tigers. I wanted to play on the same team with Mickey Cochran and Charlie Gehringer. Then when I went to high school, I very seriously played the clarinet, and I thought I was going to become a concert musician. And then when I graduated from college, I thought I'd be a mathematician, and I went to Columbia and studied mathematics. My ultimate ambition, I think, was to be an astrophysicist.
Well, what took you from that path?
Well, first of all, I discovered the sad fact that astrophysicists don't look at the stars anymore, and I think I had a romantic idea about it. I wanted to look at the stars. They look at computing machines. And then to top that, there couldn't have been more than 8 or 10 astrophysicists in the world at that time, and I didn't think I was good enough to be the 11th. Also, there wasn't much need for them then.
Well, but had you pursued that career, you might now be one of our top rocket and missile experts.
Yes, I've often thought that. It would be wonderful, but I'm very, very happy doing what I'm doing now.
Charles, when you walked into the living room there, I didn't notice any of the tools of the scholar, books. Do you have a special room for them?
No, you've seen most of the apartment. This is a wonderful room, and all the walls are hollow, and they're full of books. You can see this, and this, and that's the way with the wall all the way around.
Well, it would take a very sizable bookcase to hold just the literary output of the Van Dorens alone, wouldn't it?
As a matter of fact, it would. I've got quite a lot of the books right here. That isn't all of them, of course. I've been thinking that well, my mother and father have written between 60 and 65 books, and my uncle must have written 40 or 50 more. I suppose of the descendants of my grandfather, Dr. Charles Van Doren, whom I'm named after, in these 2 generations, something like 150 books have been written. Sometimes the family thinks we're all crazy. No. The latest in that long procession is one by my father. It's called Don Quixote's Profession, and it's a little book, but it's a wonderful one.
It really is. I'm just in the process of reading it now.
Oh, wonderful.
Charles, we're approaching National Library Week. You're experienced in television and in reading. How do you like to do a book commercial?
Well, for my books or the Van Dorens in general?
Oh, the Van Dorens. But I'll try to narrow the area a little. Aside from information, entertainment, what special value do you find in reading?
Well, I'd say that you can't leave those things out. I'd say that entertainment is the most important things about books. But entertainment of a special sort. Just think if you could know all the great and wonderful people who live in your lifetime. Some people can do it, but it's very rare. Usually we meet only 1 or 2, if that. But the world is much bigger than that, and it's been here a long time. And it would be even more wonderful if you could meet all the great people who'd ever lived. You can through books, it seems to me. And I think books are essential. There's no sense in restricting your acquaintance by not reading them.
Do you find your reading is restricted now because of all of your various projects?
Well, somewhat restricted. I'm still reading a lot. Here's the current job at the moment.
Well, is that your target for the week or the month?
No, actually, that's for this weekend. I've got to read those by Monday for a class. I still read something like 50 books a month, and sometimes 6 or 7 in an evening.
Well, that certainly looks like a very comfortable place to devour the number of books you do.
Yes, this chair, well, I don't know how to describe it. It's so wonderful. I think it's probably our only real luxury. People always ask us what we did with all our money. Well, when it came to a place for me to sit and work and think and write and read, we just bought the best chair there was.
Well, now, Mr. Van Doren, before you get too relaxed in that wonderful chair, have you joined the great debate on what's wrong with our educational system?
Well, I don't know if I've joined it. I think I'll throw in my bit now.
Good.
I'm a man who agrees with Admiral Rickover, I think, a man that you know very well, I think.
I certainly do.
It's Admiral Rickover's idea that the problem with American education is not so much that there's a lack of money, although that's important, or that there's a lack of teachers. That's important, too. But fundamentally that there's a lack of standards. Nobody knows what a diploma stands for and what it means in American education. His idea is that if the government won't do this, and maybe it can't, that a group of private citizens should get together and establish a school and have the graduates of it receive what he calls a Class A diploma. Now that would automatically mean that everybody else in the country was getting a Class B diploma, and I think it would raise the standards of American education overnight.
I think you're right, and Admiral Rickover is right, too. Charles, I know from your father that you and your brother were pretty fair athletes. Do you get much exercise these days?
Oh, not nearly enough, particularly in the winter. We all look forward to the spring and to the summer vacation when we can go up to the farm and, well, work with our hands. That's what we like to do.
Just work on the farm?
Yes, we like to, well, when I was a little boy, I loved to untie knots, believe it or not. My father couldn't believe this. It was one of my favorite things. And now we do a lot of working on the farm. We size the fields and prune the trees and so forth, and also do woodwork and do a lot of things around the house. For example, this fireplace is an odd shape, and we couldn't find a fire screen to fit it, so my father and I made it.
Wonderful.
I like very much fixing things. When I'm working on a lamp or something like that, I find that as opposed to when I'm doing intellectual work, when I'm very impatient, that I have the patience of a saint.
Uh-huh. Mrs. Van Doren, is he pretty handy around the house?
I think he can do almost anything, except I do wish he'd stay away from the plumbing.
I had a tragedy last week.
Charles, with your interest in the outdoors and your work in the city, have you ever thought of where you'd like to live eventually?
Jerry and I have thought a great deal about this. I think we're pretty well agreed that we never want to get too far away from New York. For us, it's the center of everything that's going on. I've never found a city like it, a city that was continuously interesting. I've never been bored for a day in New York. I remember a time several years ago when I got offered a job, a good job, on a magazine down in, well, in another American city. And the people made the proposal, and I met them in a hotel in Midtown, and then I left them and went downtown to Washington Square, near where I've always lived. It was in the evening. And I walked around in those streets, and I looked at the old houses and the dust flying in my face and all the people walking on the street. And then I called them up the next morning and said I could never leave. I think one of the most exciting experiences in the world is to go to, say, Madison Avenue in the 50s and feel that tremendous surge of power, which is the combined will of millions of people making the culture of America. I think that's what's going on there.
Geraldine, your husband gained considerable fame for an amazing memory. Does he continue to demonstrate that talent at home?
Yes, he does. He has a wonderful memory in every area but one. And I think in that he's probably worse than most people. He mislays things, especially books and letters, and expects me to perform miracles by finding them.
And does she, Charles?
She's got an amazing memory.
Thank you very much indeed. This is the second generation of Van Dorens that we visited, and if we keep at it long enough, perhaps we may visit the third. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you
Good
very
night.
much, too. Good night.
Good night.
We'll be back in a moment. This is the site at Sebring, Florida, of the famous 12-hour Florida International Grand Prix of Endurance. Each year at this time, the attention of the entire sports car world is focused here. It's the gathering of the clan, the greatest drivers and sports cars in the world. Over a twisting, cornering 5 2/10 mile track, these drivers will compete for the coveted Amoco Trophy. Experts who know and love cars are the best Amoco gas salesmen we have. Amoco thanks them and wishes them good racing on March 22nd. And now here's Ed Murrow. Next week, we'll be visiting in Maryland with criminal lawyer Edward Bennett Williams and his family, and in Hastings-on-Hudson with comedian Jonathan Winters and his family. There are some of the people who made tonight's program possible. And now, from person to person, good night and good luck.
Now here's news about Life magazine. Only Life could give you such an exciting variety of picture stories as this. The inside story of how U.S. mobsters ducked out of America and took over Cuba's million-dollar gambling casinos.